But it's good practice to work in a team. So, and I'll be honest with you, when you have group work, it's like 12 things to grade as opposed to 36, and it makes a big difference. So that could be part of it too. All right. Okay, group polarization. So this is where here's neutral. You might feel a little bit this way when you first start having the conversation with the group. So for example, a court case, and the person, the jury goes in and they think, I think maybe he's guilty. You know, most of the people think maybe he's guilty. After the conversation, what happens? He's definitely guilty. Their opinion becomes more extreme. Okay, if they were this way and they're like, we think he's probably not guilty, then what happens at the end? He's definitely not guilty. Okay, so whatever the consensus is, whatever most people think at the time, even if it's just like they have a slight opinion about it, the opinion becomes more extreme in whatever direction they were going. Okay, that's group what? Polarization. Good. Group think is different. Groupthink is where you get together, and it's sort of like groupthink, but your thinking kind of goes out the window because you don't really weigh the consequences carefully. You don't apply critical thinking, and you just make a hasty decision just to kind of make the decision. Okay, this happens a lot in group projects, I've noticed too. So concurrent seeking, and this is a result of some of the events of history where we've maybe gone to war and maybe shouldn't have, or maybe it just wasn't the best decision, but they were kind of like, okay, let's just move along with it, and let's not really think critically. That's groupthink, okay?
So what's the difference with both of them? They kind of seem the same.
With group polarization and groupthink?
Yeah.
Group polarization, there's already an opinion. The opinion becomes more extreme. Groupthink, you're trying to come up with a decision. There's no opinion ahead of time. It's just you come up with a decision fast and you don't think critically about something. That's. Do you see the difference? Let me think. Let me think of a better way to explain it. I mean, focus on the word polarized, where they go to one side or the other. So if they're a little bit on one side, they go all the way to that one side. So I'll give you another example besides okay, let's say you're with a group of friends and you're talking about someone who, most of you don't really care for, but by the end of the conversation, you guys all hate that guy. Okay, you're not necessarily doing anything. Groupthink, you're usually making some kind of decision and carrying it out without thinking carefully. Group polarization, it's like an opinion shift. So your opinion was not that great of him in the first place, but then you hate him by the end. Do you get it? Okay. Try to come up with your own examples. It'll help you. Your wife can help you too. All right. Is it still recording? So let's go on. You want to go on to chapter 1, the theories and stuff, or do you want to do a different chapter? What do you guys think? Theories? Yeah? Okay. Okay. This is a quick one, so don't worry. Okay. Who was the father of psychology from Germany? Wilhelm Wundt. Good. Okay, first psych lab in Germany. Do you guys remember the year? 1879. Good job. Yeah. Okay. And who was the first one to start a lab here? G. Stanley Hall. See with the G, even though apparently he hated children, which I okay, so Wundt was the father of psychology, Germany. G. Stanley Hall basically kind of brought it here. Okay? He also, the APA, right, the Psych Journal. What's the APA?
American Psych Association.
Yeah, chances are if you get asked about any kind of association, it's going to be the APA. Okay, the American Psychological Association. Okay, Structuralism versus functionalism. So in the beginning, Psych was just kind of like, they would drop a ball and be like, what did you hear? What did you see? What do you feel? What is that? That's structuralism, and it's introspection. Okay? When you're asked about stuff about how you feel or what you see, it's introspection, and it's structuralism. Then they became focused on the purpose of our feelings and our behavior. What's that? Functionalism. So functionalism, purpose should go along with that. Okay? And later on, like behaviorism also has to do with the purpose. Applied psychology, like any kind of like useful psychology, it came out of functionalism. Okay? Not that anything is not useful, but you know what I'm saying. And then in the beginning, Psych was born out of what two other disciplines?
Physiology and
Philosophy. Physiology and philosophy. Okay? So the body and the mind, basically, right? Philosophy is more having to do with the mind. Physiology is the body. So, okay. Remember, William James was the guy who thought of functionalism. And what else did he say? That in our heads, it's a stream of consciousness. Good job. Tough question. Okay? He admired Darwin, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so functionalism, again, was a lot more practical. They talked about things like mental testing, differences between males and females. At the time, they thought males were, like, smarter, right? Obviously wrong. Okay, Mary White Hawkins, Margaret Fuller. Okay, so the women, I have a slide on them. Okay, this is always hard for me to remember. I don't know, like you might have one question on it on the AP test. If you know it, that's an easy one to get right, and it'll take a second to answer, so it's worth memorizing. Okay, first woman to earn a PhD, Margaret Floyd Washburn. First psych lab at Wellesley College. Wellesley College was an all-girls school at the time. Mary White Hawkins, and she was also the first female president of the APA, so she's pretty important, I think, of the three of them. Lita Stutter-Hollingworth, she came up with the term gifted, and she studied adolescents a lot, and she also conducted research that proved that, you know, women are in fact not dumber than men. Who knew? Okay? Okay. Okay, so first perspective or first school of psych is psychoanalytic. Who was that?
Freud.
Freud. Give me some words that come to mind.
Dreams.
Dreams. Subconscious.
Ice.
Iceberg.
Mother.
Childhood. Being in love with your mother. Yeah. Sex. Okay? Unconscious, repressed. That's all Freud. That's all psychoanalytic. Okay? Why was he criticized later? Well, can you measure any of that, really? No. So remember, it shifted to behaviorism, where you could actually measure observable behavior, because all this stuff is just theory, you know? How are you going to measure any of that? How are you going to measure wish fulfillment? How are you going to do any of that? Okay, so that was the issue with Freud, although he's very influential. He's all over the movies. We still, you know, people believe still in hypnosis and things like that, even though we learned that some people believe it's role-playing. Okay, you like how this chapter kind of like, once you know the other stuff, it all makes sense now.
But I just don't get how, like, in hypnosis, like when they did the surgery thing,
Yeah,
like how did they not feel
the pain.
Yeah.
You don't feel pain.
Because they're in an altered state of consciousness, so instead of being there in the surgery, their head is somewhere else. Yeah, kind of like when you're driving the highway hypnosis, and you get there and you're like, what?
Oh.
And then, but, you know, you were driving the whole time, but your head was somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know, like when you're in pain, like if you don't think about it, it does make it better, you know, and you can forget about it sometimes. So, same kind of idea. Okay. So again, the symbol for this is what? The iceberg. Okay, everything below the water is unconscious. Everything above is
Conscious.
and the goal of a psychoanalyst is to bring the stuff that's in the unconscious up. Okay, like they believe that anxiety is caused by stuff being repressed. Like, for example, let's say someone has an aversion to sex, and then they find out through probing and hypnosis that they walked in on their parents when they were 3. Yeah, but you're gonna remember it, so. Okay. All right. Freudian slip. What did he believe that, again, that's a window to your unconscious. So George Bush with all those Freudian slips and people saying like dirty things by accident, that implies that, you know, they have some desires that are being repressed or something. Okay? Behavior is influenced by how you cope. Oh yeah, I like to spank all teachers, yes. So again, Freud, childhood, unconscious, sex, that's all Freud. Okay?
I like to spank.
Okay. Watson, why is Watson important? What did Watson found? He founded behaviorism, okay? He's the father of behaviorism. He also did what study that we just learned? The little Albert study, which showed
That you can be
stimulus generalization versus stimulus
Discrimination.
Pavlov, why is he important? Oops. Classical conditioning, the dog, Skinner, operating conditioning, okay? Okay, so Watson came around, so, you know, they're listening to Freud, and they're like, this guy is a quack. And they come around, and they're like, this is not science, what is this, you know? We need to measure things that we can actually observe, so you can have an operational definition, and everything's clear, and it's scientific, right? So Watson was the one who founded behaviorism, and it was sort of a reaction to psychoanalytics, okay? So we need proof, it's a science. What do you call when something is observable? It starts with an E. Empirical, good job. Okay, make sure you know that word. I'll probably put on the final. Nature versus nurture, behaviorists believe that it's all what? Nature or nurture? Nurture, okay? Don't get confused between the terms. Nature, you're born into nature, right? Nurture, people are like doing stuff along the way, yeah, so that's environment. So heredity is nature, environment is nurture, okay? Make sure that you guys don't confuse that, right? Remember Watson said, give me 20 healthy infants and I'll turn them into blah, 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 blah?
Yeah.
Remember that quote? Okay, and who said free will is an illusion?
Skinner.
Okay. It's also called stimulus response psychology, okay? So the way you act is because you're expecting some kind of response out of it or you've been trained. They basically think that humans are like animals. They don't give them a whole lot of credit, okay? But at the same time, behavioral is an amazing, you know, field, and it's like a huge contributor to psychology, even though the opinions of humans are, right? What's the one where they do give us like credit?
Humanism.
Good. Okay. All right. Do behaviorists believe in altruism, where you just help people out of the kindness of your heart? No. They believe that you're getting some kind of reward, so maybe you feeling happy about helping, just like the Friends episode that I showed you guys. Okay. Huh? What? The one that it took me a long time because it was taken off YouTube. Oh, it pisses me off so much. Okay. Although I can't live without it, especially for this class. Okay, so again, behaviorists agree, yeah, we have internal mental events, but you can't see them, so there's no point in studying them. We repeat responses that lead to positive outcomes. We don't repeat ones that lead to negative. Skinner, no free will. Skinner, again, one of the most influential psychologists ever. Okay, so then, oops, what just happened? No. Hold on. It just like disappeared. Okay, reopen. Okay, while this is loading. What?
They're just staring at us.
They are staring at you. They're like, you better study and do well. With a very sweet smile. So psychoanalytic, then behaviorism comes around, and behaviorism is like, no, that's not right because we can't measure it. But then behaviorist is like, oh, humans, you're just like animals. We're going to study animals. Remember, we study animals because we can control them. Okay? They're also cheaper and it's also easier, but the main thing is we can control them. And then humanists come around and they're like, what?
We're